Greetings, children, and welcome to my chamber. My name is Rotherick Gastblood, and I'm your host of Tales from the Dark Chamber. This week, we have a great show for you. Tales to make your skin crawl. Each week, my chambermate and I read a scary tale that we found on the internet, or perhaps left under some corpse. Either way, we think you're going to like it, and we're just dying for you to hear it. So sit right back, light a candle, and let's have a ghoul evening.
Hey, Rotherick, wake up. Wake up.
What?
Wake up.
Who? Woody! For the love of Dad, why are you waking me up at this hour of the day for? Can't you see I'm sleeping?
Sleeping? I never knew you slept. I thought...
Well, you were wrong, you ninny. Now, what on earth do you need? Why did you wake me?
It's here.
What is? Your ride to the mental institution?
No, it's what I've been waiting on all these months.
Right, the ride to the mental institution. I know.
No. The next installment of Even Death May Die, Part 5.
Woody, I thought you read all of them. Didn't you read them 3 months ago?
Yeah, well, I read up to Part 4, but this is the latest installment.
Fine. Go read something, and let me sleep, would you please?
Sure, Rotherick. Good night. Pleasant dream.
Go away, Woody.
Oh, sure. Sorry. So that brings us to our next episode in the series, Even Death May Die. If you have forgotten the story, go back and listen to the first 4 parts. Our heroine, Jennaleigh, had left her abusive boyfriend, took a bus out of town, whereby the bus was forced off the road in the dead of winter. The passengers on the bus were left stranded in a dark, forbidding forest, being stalked by a malevolent being, or beings. At the brink of death, a mysterious and ancient hero rescues them, only to take them under his care and lead them back into his abode. Folks, it's about to get interesting in the next exciting chapter of Even Death May Die, Part 5. Enjoy! Even Death May Die, Part 5, by R.K. DeWitt. Part 5, Hellscape. Jennaleigh ran through the woods, darkness all around her. She didn't know why she was running or what she was running from, but she was afraid. She ran and ran through a sea of infinite trees until she came upon a cloaked figure, obscured by a black hood. She came to a halt before the figure, catching her breath as she approached. "What do you want from me?" Jennaleigh asked the silhouette. "Your life," replied the shade. "Your misery, your pain, and your sorrow." Jennaleigh heard a shuffling behind her and turned her gaze over her shoulder. There, standing illuminated by a beam of moonlight against the dark, was Charlie. His teeth were glowing as he grinned. His aura was threatening, sinister. "Jenna, come home. I'll be good to you. I'll give you my heart," spoke Charlie softly as he reached out a closed hand in front of him. He opened it slowly, revealing a beating heart. Blood dripped from his hands, forming a crimson puddle in the snow, and he laughed. Jennaleigh was stunned. She couldn't speak. Another familiar voice rang out. "Hey, baby, it's okay." Jennaleigh's mother stood near Charlie in the darkness. "Take his heart. We can talk about Jason and about how I wish he was here instead of you. Go on. Take the heart. You deserve it." Jennaleigh's mother spoke with a perpetual smile. "Mom, I don't want to. I don't," Jenna said, forcing words out from within her. She looked back at her mother, who now held Charlie's heart in her hand, eating it as she stood there. She was drenched in his blood from head to toe. "Come on, sweetie. Take it." Her mother held out the heart and offered it to her daughter. Jennaleigh shook her head in disgust. "Take it. Take it. Take it. Take it! Take it! Take it! Take it, you bitch! Take it! She screamed at the top of her lungs. Jennaleigh sprang up from her makeshift bed, beads of sweat dripping down her face. What the fuck was that? She asked herself, sickened by the vivid horror of the dream. She looked around the cave and saw a faint, flickering light close by. She stood up, grabbed her jacket, slung it over her shoulders, and walked towards it. It was the faint glow of a small campfire. The flames danced and the logs crackled methodically, though without discernible rhythm. Jennaleigh sat on a long, hollowed-out log, sharpening long sticks with a carved knife made out of bone. His silhouette was cast ominous over the cave wall behind him. "Mind if I sit?" Jennaleigh asked him. "If you wish it, so be it," responded Jennaleigh without moving his eyes from the fire. Jennaleigh sat on the cave floor beside the fire. The heat felt good on her cold shins. As she silently sat by the fire, she scoured the dark cave she was in. Its surface was smooth, almost unnaturally so. There were no jagged rocks or unsightly malformations, apart from the striking reddish-brown color of the stone, which Jennaleigh thought was odd. It was like a calming hellscape, a quiet inferno. Further back in the cave was the mother and her child, holding each other sleeping. The sight of them filled Jennaleigh with a longing. Her prior feelings of loneliness seemed amplified in her current situation, something she hadn't realized or come to terms with everything that was going on. The weight of it felt overwhelming, like a weighted blanket of sorrow and anger hanging over her. She noticed Charles lying on his back, a little ways behind the mother and child, snoring away as if nothing was wrong, as if he hadn't attacked Jennaleigh just a few hours earlier. The panic was starting to hit Jennaleigh in waves as the reality of the situation began to settle in. She rubbed her arms and shivered, more from her thoughts than the cold. "Take a deep breath. It'll pass," spoke Jennaleigh, startled Jennaleigh with his unexpected and rapid crescendo from silence to spoken word. "I'm fine. I'm fine," she tried convincing herself as well as him. "If that were true, I'd be more worried," Jennaleigh replied. Jennaleigh looked at the intense man across the fire. He was poking the wood in the fire now with a long stick, causing sparks to shoot up in the air. "So, lived here long?" Jenna spoke, her voice shaking after a beat of silence. Jennaleigh looked up at her with piercing eyes. "Yes, many moons have passed since I've been here. Many nights have come and gone, though now it's hard to remember them all." "So where even are we?" asked Jennaleigh fearfully. "As I said, this land is not a natural one. It was created by abode for my people long ago," Jennaleigh said. "Created? What do you mean? This is fucking crazy. How do you—" Jennaleigh's voice broke up before continuing. "How do you expect someone to believe this shit? It's insane." "I know it must seem strange and frightening to you," Jennaleigh said calmly. "Strange and frightening? There's a fucking monster chasing us," Jennaleigh said louder than intended. She turned around and saw the little girl, Fiona, moving around in her sleep. She looked back at Jennaleigh and spoke with a noticeably softer volume. "Sorry, I'm just trying to wrap my head around this." "I understand," Jennaleigh said blankly. "So why did you save us from that thing exactly?" Jennaleigh asked. Jennaleigh looked down at his hands, which were grasping a long braid of hair that had been separated from its place of origin. "Long ago, my son was taken from me. He was chosen to be an offering to abode, and he accepted this honor. I, however, did not. The day came for my son to fulfill his duty, but I could not accept a life without him. I tried to convince him to leave with me, but he would not go. He was honor-bound to do his duty, death for his people. They held me down so that I could not follow my son, and I never saw him again. They exiled me from the village for forsaking my son's duty, and I have not returned since. I went to the place where my son had gone, and his braid was all that was left. I swore I'd have revenge, and devoted myself to this revenge. I saved you because I wish to deny this beast what it desires most, the mark of its craving, which you possess." Jennaleigh had forgotten about the mark, the disgusting, jagged thing in her front pocket. She removed it and examined it once more. It was lined with teeth from top to bottom, teeth that were elongated and serrated like small saws atop a spike that gazing upon it felt like an affront to your senses. It wasn't human, Jennaleigh knew, and there was no way that this could grow inside someone without killing them. So this mark is why it's after us? So if we don't have it, it won't attack? Jennaleigh asked, curiously radiating. You've held it in your hand, seared its essence into you. Its energy has embedded itself and entered your soul. You cannot escape its grasp. You are trapped here. Jennaleigh's heart sank. She felt the beads of sweat drip from her forehead and her hands began to shake. Trapped. The word she knew intimately. The very reason she found herself in this hellish situation to begin with. It was almost funny, the irony of it all. Trapped. So there's no way out then? Out of these woods and back to where we were? Jennaleigh asked, coasting on autopilot, out of body. As long as Eeumboe rules under the moon, so a part of this land you will be, Nahele said, sincerity in his usually stony eyes. And the others? Is there a way out for them? Jennaleigh asked selflessly. If there is, I do not know of it, said Nahele. Is there anyone here who might? Jennaleigh replied anxiously. Well, there may be one. An outsider like myself. A woman who knows the history of this plane, who has communed with the giving sorrow. An elder from before. I'll tell the others then. We need to find a way to get them back. We need to keep that little girl safe, said Jennaleigh, urgency guiding her force. Nahele raised his hand up. Tomorrow. First, let them sleep. Rest too. You will need it. Jennaleigh nodded in agreement. She turned, began to walk away and back towards her makeshift bed, then stopped in her tracks for a moment before turning back to Nahele. I thought you said your people were born with the mark inside of them, Jennaleigh asked aloud. This is true, said Nahele unassuming. Well, then how did this find its way out of our bus's tire? Jennaleigh asked, holding up the mark. Someone died to bring you here. No doubt an agent of Eeumboe and no friend of yours. There are many in this plane. Jennaleigh stood for a reflective moment before raising her hands and continuing towards her bed. She felt the unease raise in her, then hit powerfully and unexpectedly, like a giant wave crashing onto a beach. She lied down and closed her eyes and thought of her brother's face as she covered herself with her jacket and gave in to sleep. Even Death May Die, Part 5, by R.K. DeWitt. Well, folks, that's our story tonight. Rotherick and I hope you enjoyed it. We sure had a great time bringing it to you, and we really appreciate you listening. Tune in next week when we bring you another chilling Tales from the Dark Chamber. And just a note, if you're an aspiring author and want your story read here on Tales from the Dark Chamber, send us a note at talesfromthedarkchamber@gmail.com. If it creeps old Rotherick out enough, we'll air it. And subscribe to our channel here for notification of our next new episode, and follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Remember, hit that like button and help us grow the channel. Also, make sure you tell your friends about us. Spread the word. If you want your story recorded for your own use, or just want to have it, check out my website at woodygvoiceover.net. You can order there. And again, thank you for listening tonight.